Psychotechnologies Live. Welcome to an interesting episode of Psychotech Live. So a lot of guests on, and this episode, Elliot and I are, I guess, reconnecting with each other and establishing and developing our psychotech culture, for Psychotechnologies Live. Pretty much to give context, we've been talking a little bit about this to find, the thing that's appropriate for us to share and make sure everybody's, feelings and everybody's like orienting to the online space in a way that's, safe and positive for them. And so just to back up for you guys and give you guys some context, Elliot's been I don't know, complaining is the right word, but it kind of feels a little bit like complaining that there's this bottleneck that he experiences often between, how he sees the world and what's happening for him and how he wants and like getting all of that out. So, Elliot's got this entire universe inside him and he's trying to get it all out through this little teeny hole, and into the other person and into the space and the live streaming and the channels and stuff. And so this is some stuff that we're working on. Elliot, would you say that's a good sort of description of where we're at right now?
I feel like I want to say more. I want to be like, so yesterday, the other day's conversation, I was like, I have this vast, infinite internal space that I'm kind of complicated in here. There's a lot of me going on. And then outside, there's like a universe, right? Beyond this planet, it just keeps going. It's like infinite over there and it's infinite over here. And then my experience is like this momentary, like through my sensory perception, I'm like squish everything in the vast internal landscape through some words or some like gesturing of my body in order to express something from the internally infinite landscape to the externally infinite landscape so that someone else can like maybe witness me for a moment and have like oh, that's Elliot sort of experience. And I'm like, oh, well, this is
to be seen in your infinite glory.
Right. To be seen in whatever, like infinite glory would be nice, but like to be seen even in a fraction of what I wish to be seen as would be like enjoyable. And there's obviously a universal tragedy of being missed all the time, which we all should be experiencing if we're not already missing ourselves, that is. Like we're probably
I think this is something that's common to the human experience where people aren't seen the way they want to be seen or seen for who they think they are or for what they are.
Right.
This is I think universal. I think it's especially prevalent in our society today. We have this obsession with identity often, and I think that's I think that's sort of like a symptom we're trying to alleviate this problem. And so what I'd like to do is try to alleviate this problem a little bit for you here now in this context, or see if we can develop some tools for being able
resources, capacities, all that would be nice.
Yeah, so you and I have already talked about it, but I think I'd like to do it again to reclaim the context a little bit. So you mentioned that you have this view, like you see other people, like you see things. You see lots of things. You've got lots of models.
I've got lots of noticing. I've got lots of dimensions of sensitivity. Yeah, I've got like for like maybe some really simple ones like posture and expression, like facial expression. Like they're there, but most people are just backgrounding that stuff. Like, oh, I'm like, it looks like you're uncomfortable. Why are you sitting like, oh, like let's do something about that? And someone else was like, oh yeah, I've been uncomfortable for a while. I just wasn't going to do anything about it. I know someone who like, this is a really funny one. I would often find myself around this person. I would be thirsty and I would go get a drink and like offer them a drink, and they would be like, oh, I forgot I could like do something about being thirsty. Like, Like, holy shit. But it was coming up in me that I was thirsty, and I drink and then I would not be satisfied, and I'd be like, oh, that's because it's not my thirst, it's this other this other person's thirst that I'm feeling like it's like came up in my body, it's mine. And like I'm willing to address it because I whatever. And now it's changed now, people change. But for a while there it was like, oh, you just we're gonna be thirsty and be like miserable for a while. Like, why?
Yeah. Yeah, like so other people are having some discomfort in their experience, and then I think you're very empathetic, I think is
right. I mean, one word we use to describe this sort of the thing that I was saying, sensitivity, is like empathetic or empathy. Right. I notice how other people are feeling, particularly if they're strong feelings. I notice, and then I'm like, oh shit, why are we in this way where you feel bad? Why are we not addressing that first, and we're pretending it's not there?
Right. It's like it comes across like very loud for you, very
It's probably a good description. Things come across very loud. I mean, I had a friend who was like kind of confused in life, kind of lost, and I would hang out with them, and I'd be like, my frame is quite flexible. And I'd hang out with them and I'd be like, oh, let's just hang out in the lost place for a while. And they're like, how did you notice? I'm like, it was obvious. It was like screaming at me.
You're like, how do I not?
How did you not decide that it was worth addressing? Or, in this world, if you are lost, not all the adults come to you and be like, oh, you look lost, would you like help? But everyone can kind of like gets this weird vibe, like, oh, there's the lost person there.
Yeah, I think for some people it can like socially it can often, these like pains or lostness or confusion can come across as, socially inappropriate, like in various ways. And then for some people, I think like you, it comes across very like the raw experience shows up very loud.
For sure. So I'm sensing other bodies, other people, other experience. It's and then I'm like, I asked this question at one point, like, is this my responsibility? like just because I think I had someone was kind of like, they had a big depression cloud hanging around them. And I was like, I can see it. They're pretending it's not there. Like, should I like say something? Should I not say something? And like, actually, it's kind of rude to be like, what's behind your shoulder? Big dark cloud thing.
Someone shows up, and
they're like trying to deal with their shit. They've been carrying it all day, and then to have like some crazy guy be like, it's there, and have the guy, I've been trying to hide this all day, and it just keeps, floating around me. Like,
it's so when depression finally leaves the house, they finally get out social group, and the first thing someone says to them is, "Why are you so depressed?"
Depression. I mean, but there's obviously a horrible way to do that, but there's also probably a kind way to be like, oh, you look like you're carrying a lot of stuff today, like that looks pretty heavy. And that like being seen and being received compassionately could be really supportive if done in the right way. So am I responsible? Yes, and also no. Like blanket statements. I think depending on the context.
I think I'd like to move away from like how we say responsibility in general, and there's the group near me that says instead of responsible, it's response able. Like, how are you able to respond, or what are you able to respond with?
Right. So here's the problem. I probably am responsible. Like, I am able to respond to this thing. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but I am more likely to be able to be responsive to a phenomena that I'm seeing than not, given my sensitivity, my training in psychotech, my like understanding of the landscape, my like witnessing, like my experience, like working with these things. I'm probably one of the more responsible people I will ever meet, which is also tragic because like I'm in this particular dimension, I might be one of the few adults that I'm gonna bump into. No, not to say there aren't adults, but there's like maybe 1 in 100 people should be expected to like start with responsibility, like response skill. over the landscape of like weird experiential states that I might bump into. Like I'm just not going to find that many people responsive.
Like you're not going to find that many people that are able to like have this conversation with you, or to engage in this way, or to
like look, everyone knows
to even sort of triangulate and say, hey, like this, you see this thing too, right?
So like everyone knows what we do when we're hungry, right? I feel hungry now. Nearly everyone past teenagerdom, you're like solving your last bits of like hunger grumpy thing, and then you're like, oh, now I know to feed myself. Amazing. But not everyone knows how to solve like confusion, frustration, or we talked to Layman the other day, and he called it like a triple negative loop. So if you have like
thinking about that so much since that,
he's great. but if you have like a hungry, and then under the hungry is like a tired, and under the tired is like a frustration, you know, most people are good at like the surface one, or like taking one step down. If you're on the surface, or you take one step down, you're still in horrible territory, right? You actually need to take as many steps down as there are until you get to the bottom of the thing, and then you can shift it. Like that's a skill that takes practice.
Like trying to get to the root and to the
and then change it, fix it, you know, because I don't want to be any of hungry, tired, or frustrated. I want to be the thing underneath, which is get what I actually want. But if I have to travel through 3 negative territories to get there, I might not bother. I might go like from hungry to tired to go like, here there be dragons, and just turn around. Right? And
just like sit on your phone or distract, or like just,
or like go like shovel food in my mouth until I stop feeling hungry, because I don't want to get to frustrated, because I'd have to get through tired to get frustrated. Like in order to counter hunger, one option is to eat food, another option is to be like, oh, this is hunger, I can wait a bit, I'm having lunch in an hour, right? And if I do that and I end up in tired territory, then in order to counter tiredness, I need to be like either like add energy or like up resource myself in some way, or I need to be willing to take a rest. And if I manage to up resource somehow, then I'm going to find myself in the frustrated territory, right? I'm like, oh, I up resourced myself, and I revealed that I was in fact hiding a frustration. And now I'm frustrated. And then for frustration, what I'm going to have to do is like assert myself on reality, like have willingly push energy outwards, like I'm going to fix this damn thing, or like surrender to the territory that is so frustrating that it's beating me. Like I'm going to need to readjust that energetic boundary I have in relationship with my external, right? And then I'm going to be at hopefully I won't find another one underneath frustration. Like maybe I'll find under frustration, I'll find like unworthiness, or like this is it, I can't do it, some like experience of I can't do it, and then I'm going to have to address that in order to be at peace with myself, right? That could be 4 steps of like frustrating energetic territory. Most people can do it 1, and then they're like they go eat food, and then they're like, oh, now I'm tired, you know. To do 4 in a row in a stack, like to really dig up your shit and solve it, is like that's a lot of work.
So what do we think is underlying here? Is under like I guess like we've hit so we've hit like the disconnect and the bottleneck. We've hit the frustration of trying to get all the things through. Under that, is there something like you're not being seen? So is there something like loneliness or aloneness? Or
I mean, my sense is more like a longing. Like I have this longing to be seen, or this desire for, like passionately drawn towards the hopeful wish that maybe I will be seen or something. Personal longing. It's not like a frustrated like one like if it was like a frustration, like no one's seeing me, you know, that's a frustration to get what like I want. But this is like a longing, like a maybe like a strong desire, if we're talking like desire or aversion, right? Like I'm not being seen as like a angry at the way things are, it's an aversion to the way things are. But this is more like a longing, like a desire towards
like a
wanting them to be. Yeah. That's kind of yeah.
Okay, so you got this pull.
Still suffering, but like it's a pull.
It's the pull suffering, not the push suffering.
Right. which are both suffering. They're like from a meditative perspective, suffering is suffering is suffering. Like that's just how it is.
Mm-hmm. So how would you like to handle this? Would you like to, what should we like see if we can dissolve the poll?
I don't know. I mean, like even sitting here on the cusp of the thing is like, it's kind of nice to see this. To like, oh yeah, get some like vision of the territory of on the edge here of like what the annoyance is or what the struggle is. So like this is nice. And the like exploring the edge of this territory is interesting.
So share us what you feel. What do you see? What do you feel? What's going on? Just so we don't have the dead air.
Yeah.
Normally, I would, if this was like a normal session, I'd just I'd let the silence sit and let the person sort of be in it. But given the life we've chosen for ourselves of being public psychotechnologists, I think it's important for us to also share what.
Right. So I'm kind of like. So let me explain. So I'm paying attention to. There's like something in me with a longing, and it feels very passionate. Like this part of me that's like, I really want that thing. I like.
Is there like a burning passion inside you? The power of youth.
So interestingly, ever since that video with Malcolm, where we worked on that thing, there was a quality of like energetic brightness that we worked with and played with. I don't know if I ever called it that at the time, and then I worked with that after, and then this bright thing that I was previously attached to and kind of following just isn't as bright anymore. So there is a passion, but it's not like super bright, shiny, like irritatingly bright. So yes, but there's this passion, there's this like, man, I wish people could actually see what I see in the world, the complexity, the beauty, the whatever I'm choosing to be complaining about that they're not seeing. I wish they could damn well see it. Which I mean, it feels like a good drive.
You want to see it also.
Right. I mean, that's the like the passion, right? So I'm like, I'm enjoying myself in this passionate whatever. And it's like hopefully enlivening for you to hear this quality, but I want this quality not locked up and buried in this like frustration. I want it to be like free and flowing with me all the time so that I can more often share it with people because like you said, it sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
Which is like, maybe I just want to do an integration with this part of me so that it's here all the time, even though it's frustrating to like that they miss it. It's like, oh, I just want this this thing all the time. I want it to be shared with people.
Right.
Like, can I just integrate this? I'm not sure. Let me just see if I can just lock it in. This is good. And also there's a quality of like, feels like work. Like I have to stay with this emotional experience and like do hard. Which is like, okay, but I need to like make my peace with whether I want to be working all the time or like there's an appropriateness, like in terms of getting this to integrate. I either need to be okay with working all the time or I need to be able to sometimes turn it off or turn it down.
Right. Because like you don't want to be lazy, but you don't want to burn yourself out either.
Right. So the quality of like, this is enlivening, but if I like if I can do it on passive mode, that would be much nicer. If I can always be enlivening, that would be great. But if I have to like, if I have to work really hard at it all the time, I'm going to burn out. I'm going to get tired. I'm going to get sick of it. I'm going to do it a bunch and then be not seen again and then be even more frustrated. But if I can do it at like easy mode, like, this is just how I am. I just love being passionate. That's like free energy, right? I can just have free energy.
Yeah, I find like with the like if you're aligning your motivations and output properly, it feels like it feels like free energy.
Right.
Yeah. It's like
Because
when you
I'm
do
just
something
doing
you
what I
love.
love, right? And then if
Yeah.
I'm doing what I love, then like nothing can stop me.
Yeah, then you're not working.
Right.
It looks like you're working, but it isn't. And if
Right.
you
From
are
the
working,
outside, it's gonna look like I'm working. But from the
yeah,
inside, it's like there's nothing I'd rather do.
yeah,
Hmm.
it's a good way to live life
Hmm.
if you can pull it off.
Hmm. Like maybe kind of like it doesn't feel like it's permanently locked in yet. Like there's something missing here. I'm like, what is my hesitation? Is my hesitation this work thing, or is it like um
But what does it look like to you? Because I think we started where it was like very hard, very frustrating, and now we're in this point where it seems like it's different. Like the landscape has shifted a
hmm,
little bit. Even just talking about it and hanging out in this space.
hmm. um I don't know what your question is.
Well, just like a reassess. Like imagine like we were
Okay.
doing this, but we just started again. Like
Right.
I think things would be different.
So we
Like
started,
I think things are different for you already.
yeah, we started at the bottleneck problem. And
Yeah.
my sense is that I'm in a I've moved to a place of like I'm committed to just being more alive. And if it's difficult to transmit that, then like whatever. At least I should show up more alive, and then we'll work
You
it out
seem
in the
more
territory.
alive. You
Right.
seem more alive. You seem more passionate.
Right.
Like it does feel like that energy is coming out in a more
Right.
looser, fluid.
Right. I mean, probably reasons that I previously locked this energy up, and this is where I was about to head anyway, is that this energy's got a bit of like the quality of steamrollering in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get to with all this passion and wonderful energy, I get to steamroll anything going on in front of me and replace it with my great cool energy,
Yeah.
which kind of annoys people if you do it all
Yeah.
the time, right?
Yeah. So you have been doing that a little bit now in this
Right.
episode, but I think it's totally appropriate for what we're doing.
Right. In this container, it's totally appropriate.
Right.
In the long term, I need to like get the right balance, right?
But yeah.
But like there's a part of me that can sense that I'm doing the steamroller thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect that I previously shut down my own energy in a bajillion ways to like not steamroller other people. But obviously that's some deadening. I want both of us to be alive rather than like neither of us to be alive.
Yeah.
Or like
How
or
many
one
other
or the
people
other.
are on the other side of this doing the same thing with you, where they're like,
right.
oh, I wish Elliot would come alive, then I could like actually connect with him and talk.
Right. And here I am going like, oh, I'm gonna have to step down so that they have space to step up, and neither of us are stepping up.
Yeah.
Yep. There's definitely a healthy movement here, moving in a particular direction.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just sensing in again as like, how's this? What is the balance? Is there a balance here that I'm striking effectively? And one way that a bunch of psychotechs will do this is that they will like reroute. So instead of like paying attention either to the outside or to the inside, there's a big or there, one or the other. We pay attention to the way that my inside is receiving the outside. So here I am in relation to Daniel, right? I just saw him look up and look away. Instead of paying attention to Daniel, I can pay attention to my body and how it feels when he like did that thing. He looked away. And that way I'm paying attention to my body and I'm paying attention to Daniel while paying attention to my body. So it's not an or, it's a both. Like I found a way to do both.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like I went through this a while ago, like before we started Psychotech, where when I realized like I'm experiencing the world, I don't actually need to pay attention to the world. I could just pay attention to my experience.
Right.
And you can actually just live from there.
Yeah.
It takes some time to get used to, but
mm-hmm.
like all the information is there. It just shows up differently.
Yeah. and I would say the other way as well, that like I don't have to pay attention to myself because I can know myself by how the external world is reacting to me, right? Daniel's like,
Yeah.
you said what? And I'm like, oh, I said a thing that made him go, what? I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
know myself through Daniel. It doesn't have to be an or. There's a both on that side as well as a both on this side.
Right. Right.
So yeah, and then there's a training in like practicing that and getting the hang of it. And then I'm always paying attention to both.
Right. And then I think like over time you can develop this synthesis
Mm.
of that, and you're essentially like you're able to experience the world from multiple perspectives all at the same time.
Mm. Or like, because the world is a relationship of multiple perspectives, I can perceive it's like an implied other. This is the book Manual of Insight by Mahasi Sayadaw talks about the practice of mental noting. So like every time I hear something, I do a little mental note. I heard something. Every time I feel something, I do a mental note. I feel something. Every time I think something, I do a mental note. I thought something. And this is just a little meditative practice that sort of builds up.
As well.
Yeah, it's Shinzen's.
Monastic Academy likes this style. Yeah.
Right, it's mental noting. But what ends up happening is you start to notice that there's like, oh, hearing something is like information about the thing that I saw move and made a noise, right? So because I heard it, I can imply that it was also visually going to be there, right?
Right.
And so there's like an implied knowing through implied knowing. And like I saw it, therefore I can imply that there would have been a sound there, even if I was in that moment in my visual field, not in my auditory field. And the same goes for, I think the metaphor was like, there are footprints in the mud, and then there's a big rock, and then there's footprints on the other side of the rock. You can assume that the animal walked in the mud and then across the rock and then down the other side, right? Mm-hmm. There's like an assumption that like implied, even though I didn't literally see the animal walk on the rock, I can assume that it
like
it
inference.
Did. Yeah, so this is like epistemically the like internal experience of making an inference and a deduction. And this is huge for like meditative constructs for experience for reality, right? This is the like moment by moment perceptual phenomena of making deduction.
Right. This is also the rationalists do this, right? Like as a rationalist, you have to break down, what do I know? What am I inferring? What am I deducing? And stuff, and then move from there.
Right. So this is a very powerful meditative method, very powerful little bit of the resultant philosophy of noticing that there's deduction is a thing that is entirely reasonable and entirely self-provable, that I can deduct things and I can be correct about my deductions. Right. Mm-hmm. So this is the like, I can infer things without having had to have seen them myself, based on the body of inference of wisdom that I've already developed, be it like,
right. So this is connecting back.
This is the whole stack of like inference. All of inference in your mental system is like this. So as soon as you experience it, do it, work it through once, then you're like, oh, now I understand inference, and now I can infer anything that I've known. I can re-infer later. Like I can infer that other people have certain feelings following certain other feelings because I've seen it before. I can infer that other people are like me. I can infer that, what are the big inferences? Well, here's the big one. I can infer a complexity of my own experience based on a fraction of that. Like moment to moment, I'm going to experience a fraction of my being, right? But I can infer the rest of the complexity based on prior experience of the complexity, and knowing that this little slice could only exist with the great complexity. Kind of give him a moment.
Yeah. I lost the thread. Like I lost the stack. Like all the individual things are making sense to me.
So inference. So we started at like, I have an internal. Go ahead.
Yeah, like what's the bigger picture? What's the higher order stuff that I
Right. So we started at the like I have the massive internal experience. It's complicated, hard to express, and there's a massive external experience. Or like within you is also a massive internal experience that is hard to like. And I want to bridge from here into there, right? I want to be like, Daniel, look at me. I'm so interesting. Look at all the cool stuff I can do and know and stuff.
Right.
And Daniel's like, maybe not watching half the
Elliot,
stuff.
you're so cool. Oh my
Maybe,
gosh.
oh my God. Or like just he hasn't noticed a bunch of stuff that I'm noticing. And I'm like, how did I notice it? Oh, I noticed it by inference. Like I spent a bunch of time meditating, like noticing all this interesting stuff. And then I kind of stopped watching some of it because I was able to infer that it's still there even when I'm not watching. And this is like you spend a bunch of time meditating on the breath until you like there's like a foreground and a background, and you pay attention to it in the background, and then you pay attention to it in the background all day, like 24/7. And then you realize that like the breath is always there, but also like in some experiential way, you can realize that it's always been there and that you've always been paying attention to it in some way all day. And so you're like knowing of the breath has a continuity to it, even though it wasn't in the foreground of your experience. So
right.
Then your
In
ability
philosophy,
to
they call this a consciousness, B consciousness.
kind
So
of
like
right,
active and then passive. And
right.
so
So
it's the noise in the background that you realize you've been hearing all day, but you didn't
right.
you didn't realize it at the time.
Using this inference step, you can like, oh, it's always been there. My complexity is always there, even if it's like in this moment not quite showing up, or like I'm tired right now, and so there's less of it. But I'm like, it will be there if I look.
Right. So this is the way I would describe this phenomenon is there's the realization. So you're realizing what has happened. Like you're realizing what you knew, but you didn't realize before.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing in the background that you've been breathing your whole life, but you didn't realize you've been breathing your whole life. And then in meditation, you can realize that, hey, I've been breathing this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's very experiential. Like there's not really specific knowledge that you're going to derive from that. And then you're saying like you can actually use inference to realize. So you can use inference to know, and then you can use inference to realize things that have
right. Well, but specifically like to realize the complexity in yourself and the complexity in others.
Yeah.
You can use this like inference deduction move of like noticing a bit of complexity and then realizing that there's actually a lot, and it's always been there in multiple dimensions. Like, oh wow, I've always been complex.
Right. Realizations are so powerful. Mm-hmm. And I feel like when I was young, I just wanted to know everything, and now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, I just need to realize everything. Like I already know everything, I just need to realize it all at the same time,
or enough of it with the inductive step, like that I've
and
the whole map or something.
The induction is a way of it's a way of like limiting. I find it's a way of like limiting the amount of things I have to actually experience in order to realize. Because like otherwise, like there's just so much data coming in all the time that, like like I can't handle it all, right? Like I do filter, and so if I'm able to naturally induce things, then the amount of data, like the amount of the world I actually have to experience, like decreases significantly
in order to know it. Yeah.
And I still get really powerful realizations. And
I mean, the ideal trick is to come down to like single experience, right? In this moment, I experience one thing, one sensation, one visual field, one whatever, and through that one thing, I know it. I know everything.
Yeah.
Right? Constantly realizing reality on the one moment that I have in the present moment.
Yeah. Like that's the best.
That's the enlightenment.
Like I don't have that 100% obviously, but
no.
Yeah, if I can just know this moment, then I know everything. Or if I just realize this moment, then I've realized everything. And like that, I think that's kind of like the goals that I'm moving, like I'm trying to hit.
Yeah.
Because then I just live and everything works.
Right. Which is like, I do want to point out there's another bottleneck there, right? Just this moment infers vast future and vast past experience, right?
Right.
The bottleneck of just being witness to only one thing in this moment, one sensation, one whatever thought, one experience is kind of like a bottleneck on both sides of which is like vast future possibility in every direction, and the like complexity of the past that came together to produce this one moment of experience.
Okay, so let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Because I think you're inferring stuff here that's making it more complex for you.
Sure.
Because like, okay, so we've like what like, just to move back, what I feel like I did was, I'm like, okay, so this is the thing, I want all of reality to exist in one moment, which like it already technically does.
But my experience of it is like, meh. Oh,
right,
most reality, I experience one bit, one like bleh, one vocal field, one like auditory, one that's all I got in a
no, stop.
Okay.
Moving back, we're gonna do a little bit slower now, because we got these bottlenecks, right? We got all this vastness, we got all these bottlenecks. If we take more time, then the pipe has more throughput, right?
Right. What do you mean? Like if we slow down?
Like we're trying to realize this moment, but if we take time to realize this moment, then we have it's easier to do it. Right?
I don't know about that. Is it? Or like, what do you mean by easier?
What I mean is that there's more space for us to work.
So some things that happen if we slow down is that it may be easier to experience discrete bits of our momentary, like if I'm rushing, if I'm running somewhere, I barely hear things while I'm like trying not to trip, while I'm like seeing the world like jolt around because I'm running, right? But if I slow down and I walk, I can hear, I can see, I can walk. Like one thing that happens when we slow down is it gets easier to make discrete moment by moment experience.
Yeah.
Is that, but it doesn't, like the things themselves don't slow down. It just gets easier to, maybe there's a little bit more space between them.
Your experience gets less cluttered, which is the main thing.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Forget the metaphysics. Just a very basic level.
Yeah. First person perspective. The things I'm looking at, instead of like as I'm running along, I'm bouncing around. Instead of that, like instead of my visual field sort of bouncing around, it's like, nope, I see I'm walking along and like, it's like I'm in the park and I'm walking. There's a dog over there. Like, okay, good.
Yeah, I found that it's like a major advantage to like sitting on a cushion in a
meditation
room, like quiet, everything. Like it's not that the universe has gotten simpler, it's that you don't need to process so much of it.
Right. And we know someone who
process what's in that room.
We know someone who did like 10 days blindfolded in meditation, like deeply, like not having a visual field, which takes a whole bunch of information away, that maybe like in darkness, blindfolded and in darkness in meditation. And like, maybe that takes away a bunch more information that could distract the mind, and therefore you can see reality even more clear because there's less and less, and obviously sitting as well.
Right. So for us, I'd like for us to sort of, as much as possible, to drop everything that's not this bottleneck. And then we can use this bottleneck as an abstract meditation object.
Sure.
Can you feel it?
Kind of. It's also kind of what I'd call the present moment.
Right.
There's a thing that's like hard to pin down because it's smudged between the past and the future, right? It's a thin line between the past and the future that maybe doesn't even exist.
Yeah. Don't pin it down, right? Because you're just gonna kill it. Best case scenario, you kill it.
Worst case scenario, like time all breaks and what have we done?
Break physics.
Right.
So we have this, right? So we have this present moment. For me, it's feeling like a little rushed or hurried. Like there's like stuff that needs to happen. But I think I'm feeling that from you. Like I think like that feels like external from my body.
Right. I mean, that could be the like passionate thing from earlier, still here, which I can probably do something to like, there's a movement of like honey moves slow, right? Like
Okay.
move everything a bit like honey, like um,
Okay.
add some like density or thickness to the experience.
Viscosity.
Yeah, that one. Disgusting. Okay. There's still a fast moving when I move, but there's like less in between.
Okay. Is there a part of you that's not moving, like that's getting left behind, or is not part of, like, is there some sacrifice you're making in order to move fast?
I don't think so, or I'm not noticing any part of me going like, "What about me?" or like barely catching up. Like one example might be like needing to breathe faster in order to keep up with the like whatever, but it doesn't feel like I do.
Mhm.
So no.
What about the experience outside your body? Do you feel like that's still with you?
Yeah. This is the like when you're running, you may run past things without barely noticing them, sort of thing. But
Mhm.
no, I think it's still here. Question. Let me. I think it's still here as it was. I mean, one question is there more complexity if I slow down and perceive all this complexity at once? Or is there the same amount? Like, was I simplifying? I think it was about the same.
Mm. And I guess my final question is, are you feeling seen?
Uh,
are you feeling like you're able to express that we're simpatico in sync?
uh, um, Something's saying no, but I wonder why or what it is that's saying no, because that seems important. Um, this is in weird territory. I'm gonna have to like word through it.
Nice.
Um,
It's my specialty, weird territory.
well, it's like what is saying that? Well, so the only person kind of watching in this moment that I know of is Daniel right now.
Mhm.
So I'm like, am I being seen by Daniel? There's something saying like, no, I'm not currently being seen by Daniel in fullness or complexity in the way that I would want. I'm like, okay, I can like, what do I need to tell him to get him to see more? Because that's
You
like,
jumped. You
why?
jumped.
Why?
Because you're doing like a thing like, what do I need to say in order for him to, versus how do I, like, less steps than that. Do that, but less steps.
Well, I'm trying to like verbalize my process here as well, on purpose. Like I'm trying to.
Right, but it doesn't like it doesn't have.
Say that again. We kind of like froze.
You were definitely not seen there. The internet kind of a little.
Yeah.
It's not going to be verbal. It's going to be the thing that we talked about earlier, where you show up and there's this presence or these obviousness or this
Right.
the empathetic dimension or something.
Mm.
Well, I don't have good words for this. I don't have good words for saying don't use words.
Right. Well, there's a question here of, and I don't know the answer to this, is it on my side or your side? Like, is me showing up, is me being seen about me like flailing my arms so that I'm louder? Or is it about me being like, hey, Daniel, you're not looking? Like, in some way, like that's a very crude sort of 5-year-old way to do it, but there's probably some nuance to some way I can say, hey, Daniel, look at this, or hey, what about this? And Daniel can be like, oh, that's cool as well.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure whether it's which side it's on.
Yeah, I've been training my kid because I'm afraid of that happening with my kid, where he does things and I don't notice, and then I'm like feeling like I'm not a present parent. And so I have him when he does things that are like cool that he likes, he goes ta-da, and then it becomes very obvious that he wants
he wants celebration, or he wants some sort of recognition or something.
Or clapping hands is another one. When he does something, he claps hands if he wants praise.
Nice. I mean, that's pretty convenient.
Yeah.
until he learns to like overuse the like wanting of attention.
Well, no, yeah. So we train him. Like today, he was making a mess. He was taking the stuff out, and then he puts it on the bed and make the food on the bed, and then he goes like this, and I go no, and then I put it back in, and I go like this.
Right.
And so it's this back and forth of like he's learning how to get attention. He's learning how to do things that other people find, makes other people happy or impressed or whatever.
Right.
Or proud.
Mm.
And so I feel like this is the thing that we're doing now, not to imply the parent-child relationship between us, but that there's
I mean, like the thing I would say is that a whole bunch of personal development, instead of growing up, is growing down, like back to my whatever 3-year-old, 5-year-old version of me that missed something, and like we're trying to redo that relational quality that I didn't get right back then.
Yeah.
So like that, it feels like a little kid thing. Like it's just, well, it's rebuilding my relationship with external reality, right? Around being seen, being recognized, something like that. So yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like you're reparenting yourself is
something like that. Yeah. And like trying to work out what is that thing.
Right. I'm in the same boat. Like I also have these as well, where I don't always see other people and I'm not always seen, and or sometimes I'm seen and I don't want to be seen. And
yeah, that's a good one too. It's on.
I think that's the dark side of this, right? Like we want attention. Like, okay, we'll give you attention, but then our attention's there and we see things that you might not want, and then that triggers the shame.
Yeah, shame stuff. I was about to direct straight into shame territory because, of course, shame seems like a relational one. Like it's about being seen in ways we don't want to be seen, like being caught doing the wrong thing or being bad. There's a lot of shame around being bad, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so am I feeling seen? That was the question. Before that 5-minute tangent.
Yeah. Is this stuff that have you been monitoring this, and is there a sudden realization now? Now that like you remembered the being seen, to come with a realization of some sort.
It wasn't really a spontaneous remember. It was a like returning to, because I mean I have chapters written down here, so it's returning to like the thread before this thread. Was it being? I mean, I still don't. There's still something here. I don't feel quite seen. And not blaming you or anything. I'm just like, this is where I'm at in the middle of like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm suddenly on the question, like, do I need to advocate for my own experience in some way for being witnessed better? Like, is that a thing that I need to do? Maybe. Because I think I've got a lot of giving up. Like, oh, never gonna get seen anyway. Gonna give up on trying that thing. But obviously there's something unhealthy in that giving up. There's something healthy in the surrendering, but there's something unhealthy in the like not even trying. Where maybe I could be seen if I just gave it a bit more of a go. But I'm doing the like giving up too early thing.
So do you think like it's some of it is just perseverance? Like you need to just like, okay, like this is hard, but I'm just gonna keep working at it or pushing through.
Or like have a willingness. I had a pattern recently that something like I will be maybe with a group of people, or I will be trying to explain something kind of complicated or nuanced. I'll be like, here's this cool new nuanced idea. And it'll get missed. Like someone will take the simpler version and think that's what I meant. And I'll be like, internally, I'll be like, nope. But then they'll like get excited and run with it. And I'll be like, oh, well, I'll just give up. And there's some like self-abandoning there that I'm like, I don't like this self-abandoning because I had a cool thing that I wanted to like, you know, share. Yeah. And then it's just like, nope, it's gone. Can I
share how I react to that?
Sure.
So is that cutting you off? Or
no, it's fine. It's fine.
So I do, for me, if I'm trying to do a complex idea and somebody gets really excited about like the super simple version of it or one of the idea's components, then like I assume, like I kind of just assume that like this is their max where they're at, and right. I'm just not going to be able to like express what I want to express.
So that might be what's going on, but I'm still like disappointed with that.
Yeah, but that's for me, that's okay. I'm not saying that this
there's also some possibility here that I'm just not advocating well for my idea. Like if it is a complex idea, maybe I need to like slow down a bit, set the stage a bit better, and then like hit the nail on the head of what I mean, rather than like however else I was presenting. Like maybe I was like, hey, here's my complex idea. And they're like, oh, the simple idea. That's great. And I'm like, oh, bad delivery. They didn't get it because I did a bad delivery. That's my fault, maybe.
Right. You're blaming yourself.
Maybe. Well, maybe it is. Well, like I'd rather blame myself because if it's self-attributed, then it's like I can do something different. But if I blame the other person, then I'm like powerless.
No, I'm gonna call you out here right here, right now.
But like I'm deliberately, the blame is there deliberate too.
Yeah, you're not seeing yourself. And so you're not seen. Because like you have like there's like you like right. You, me, whatever, right. Like we spend a lot of time on this stuff and we process a lot of stuff, we do a lot of stuff, like we put a lot of work into this.
Yeah. And then I have
it is possible that other people that you're talking to are not so comfortable with cross meta-paradigmatic ideas,
whatever, yeah,
that they're not able to follow as well. And I think if you're gonna say, oh, this is my fault that they can't understand this, like on one hand, like yeah, if you were, you know, an order of magnitude better, you would be able to just look at people and they'd be enlightened, and like that's true, maybe, I don't know, but the stories say it's true, so we're gonna pretend it's true, right? But on the other hand, like Jesus Christ, right? Like acknowledge yourself for where you are before you start blaming. Sure. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're just not in touch with reality at that point, and you're not seeing yourself, and then you're not seen.
Yeah, there's a complex one here, because not seeing myself is killing me a little bit, and then also seeing myself too much, it starts to put me on like a higher level, which is not healthy either, right?
Right.
Be on the level with people so that, you know, I can be friends with them rather than be superior to them, because being superior, it's not that fun. After a while it gets boring. I'm like, I'm just better than everyone, blah blah blah, I'm over it.
Yeah, and this is the narcissist thing. I'm not calling you narcissist anymore, but I'm saying there's this pattern with narcissism where it's very insecure and very high ego at the same time. And you can go either way, where you can say, okay, I'm going to not think I'm better than everyone, and then just live that life for a while, and that will like help cure your narcissism. Or you can go the other way and start feeling more secure in yourself and the world and the place around you. And then you don't need to have that like super high status recognition anymore.
All right, I'm with you. But then they're like, I'm also seeing the nuance in the nuance, right? Like the way that you're describing this like tiny bit of like self-missing, self-abandoning, it's like, oh, my blind spots are like sneaky little buggers who hide in the shadows of the shadows.
Now that the pieces are in place, now the rest of your let's call it psychotech complex inside you, the rest of your stack is able to process. And so now it's going to get way more complicated very quickly. This
one's, I can feel like it's still in the blind spot a little, because it's like the spot where it hides is particularly nuanced. So it's not like I've like many internal realizations. There can be a moment of like witnessing or a moment of seeing it, and then like everything falls into place. Like, oh, it was because I was bullied in high school that like suddenly all of my relationships still have that quality to them. Like bang, it can all like propagate in realization. But this one being kind of nuanced and locked in, it hasn't like propagated in a whole bunch yet. So I might have to look at it for longer. Or I don't know what I need to do.
Okay. I'd like to witness you.
Yeah. I'm like,
if this is something that you're
so very funny. One of my old moves was like, I'll look at that later, right? Very powerful, like avoidance strategy. But there's something, but obviously doing it now is harder and like I and like more likely to cause growth, right? Because right now is when it's up and when I'm working with it.
It's more fresh. I'm gonna just say a bunch of stuff I'm gonna talk for a little bit to give you some time to process. I love this one. Like, to me, this is like one of the favorite ones to be able to, and I think this is like the mark of a psychotechnologist, is your process when you're able to process it in public or with people in the moment. And the side effect of this, which I absolutely love, is that you become actually dumber. Now hear me out. Or not dumber, but complexity becomes much more difficult because you're so alive and you yourself are always changing. So you can't actually get a read on yourself. You have to, be constantly in relation with yourself. And I think that makes you way healthier, and it makes it like you're doing the parallel processing, right? Starting to do that parallel processing, which means that you're not ahead. You're no longer super far ahead of everyone. You're actually like you're able to keep pace with everyone much easier, because it's like running a race and then you're always ahead, but instead you're going to run the race and you're going to carry like 100 pounds on your back. And now all of a sudden you can run the race with everyone, and when everyone's complaining about how hard it is, you can complain as well. Like, that makes sense to you. That's what I love about this thing, I think.
Very tricky spot I'm in. Yeah, go ahead.
No, this is life.
Like I'm playing with the recognition, right? So there's part of me that's like, oh, I am pretty good at all this psychotech stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, so what
You're
if
very good at this? You're very good at this, yeah.
Right. So what if I give this part of me like more recognition, right? I say I'm not just pretty good, I'm very good.
Yeah.
And then like, what does that do for the rest of my like? There is definitely something that I was not giving recognition just like 5 minutes ago. I was not recognizing the part of me that did want to be known for being very good at this, right? And so as I give this part of me recognition, what happens to, and like cautiously, because I'm a psychotechnologist, right? I'm not just going to dump on praise and like hope the whole system holds together. I'm like, wait a second,
No,
what happens if I do
like,
this?
really, what's going on here? Yeah.
Like, does other stuff fall out of balance? Like, do I then like this the concern of like then I'll think I'm better than other people and then I'll put myself out of their league and then I'll have to correct somewhere? Like, does all that happen or does it not happen? Like, do I just get like free energy here because I'm like, oh, extra praise? Yeah, I'll take that. That's nice.
Thank you.
Or like, is there anything else I need to do here?
Are you saying like, is it like, what's the cost of this or the implication?
Well, kind of to like lock in the integration here. Like, is there anything else I need to do, or am I gonna?
Yeah, you need to keep doing it.
Well, as in, like to lock in the. Like, is there stuff?
You can't lock this in. The only way.
Well, the like habit, lock the habit in of continuing to reward myself for being kind of better.
Well, it's I don't know. You don't necessarily. Okay, I see what you're doing. I don't think you should do that. I'm not 100% sure on this. I'll be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. This is exploring territory now.
But yeah, this is the way I'm thinking about it. This is my paradigm, let's say. This isn't something you can lock in because this is living. So like what you're usually trying to do is to like, what we do is to create habits is we give ourselves rewards so that, we're more, our underlying our animal self is more likely to do that and more able to, and it's like that. But this is like an internal relationship realization. So there's you're not really parting it out. So like for one, like you don't necessarily really want one part to recognize the other part. You want the system to recognize itself. And so if you have to break it up into steps, then you have to do that, and that's fine. There's no shame there. But I don't think you have to.
Well,
like in this case, like you specifically now in this case. It's not a philosophical statement.
Let's go for like, here's what it feels like. There's a part of me that we've now discovered wants praise, wants to be like someone to be like, Elliot, I do recognize you for having more complexity. There's a part of me that wants that. Mm-hmm. And so there's some like, all right, let me just recognize myself. Let me just give myself that thing. And then there's like, so I do that. And then my system kind of has like a positive sum of energy, right? Because there's this part that's been working really hard to show up with complexity. And like, I'm recognizing it. So two things that happen. I'm spending some energy to recognize it, right? But then this part is suddenly receiving praise. And it's like, so like I'm spending this energy, but I'm gaining it again when I'm recognizing myself. And the part that's been working really hard also has like, doesn't have to work hard anymore, right? Because it's got the thing that it's got. So I've actually freed up this much energy by like I spent this much energy to receive it again, and then I freed up this much energy. Now I have this much free energy that's kind of like bouncing around my system, going like, how do I integrate this extra free energy that is now kind of sitting here? Like, that's what I'm feeling.
That's what you're struggling with.
Well, I'm like, how do I integrate this now? How do I like in order to like get this permanently like healthy, better pattern, I now have this free energy that I'm like, I gotta enjoy this somehow. I gotta put it somewhere. Like, where's it? Like, it's just gonna buzz around and annoy me until I like turn down my energy, because otherwise it's like annoying. Okay. Right. And turning down my energy is like killing myself a little bit. I don't want to do that. I want to like find the place to put this in free energy where it's actually useful.
Okay.
Like, do I put it in like recognizing other people's complexity too? Like, is that fit?
No,
like, not quite. I like in theory I ask it, where does it want to go? And it sort of like goes, oh, actually I like being over here.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm kind of like staying with it, trying to work out what that place is. I mean, you probably remember I did this with you in Evolution of Shadow Resolution, where we did we re-owned something and then there was too much energy. And you were like, let me just, I can feel it like hooking back in. And I was like, don't let it do that. You have to like let that free energy find the healthy place.
Yeah.
Like you were like, let me just hook it into another addiction or something. Like,
Yeah.
no, don't
It
do
feels
that.
like that's what you're doing now a little bit.
Well, I'm trying to, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to like be like, wait a second, let's hold on to this free energy and get it in the right place rather than the like find a new addiction.
Yeah.
Like find a new
Well,
place to
don't.
not recognize myself.
Yeah. Just
Like,
just
no, no,
chill.
no.
It's fine. Just breathe, because this the energy. Okay, so the energy. The way I think about it is like there's like taxes and stuff, right? Because why? Because to free up this energy, a lot of systems had to work well in order for this energy, in order to produce this free energy. And so for me, there's always this like, okay, so all those systems need to get their payment, right?
Interesting. We should spread it out, all the rest of it.
Yeah. So all the things that led up to this moment of realization, and this is like you've exited a karmic cycle,
Right.
at least in small
Totally.
parts.
Yeah, that's one way to describe it for sure.
And so like I don't know, like so like building the karmic exiter system, right? Like all those pieces need some of their due, right?
Right. Well, I
So
mean,
that,
there's a thread going in the back of my mind that's like, where did this free energy come? Like, what do I need to reward for relieving this free energy? And it seems like when I asked that question, that the root points to, well, there was a thing that I wanted, right? There was I happened to be, I want recognition for being awesome. Like who doesn't? But, and so what I should do is take this free energy and return it into my system of wanting, so that I can like illuminate more of the things that I want and later like free those up as well.
Yeah, some of it should go to one.
So I'm like, yeah, I should just put it there. And I think that
not all of it. It's a big chunk of change, right? Like
no, it's a small chunk. It's not that big.
Yeah, but it's powerful. Like, you know what I mean? Like free energy is really like, you know what I mean? It's like like it's really valuable stuff. It's like this is like gold, right? So you're like, oh, it's only a bar of gold, like whatever, it's not that much, but it's super valuable.
But it's also like I want to put it back into this system so that this system will yield more gold.
Right.
Because there was like
systems working themselves.
Yeah.
So one of them is right, and each system is claiming that they're systems often claim that they're the one true system that has brought you to the place.
Well, I picked one of them, right? I picked the wanting system. I could have picked the praise system, right?
Right. So I like to do like break it up and give it away to all the pieces deserve, like pay proportion.
Piece of the puzzle. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's proportional. We're not just going to attribute all of our success to one factor. There's often various factors. Unless you're like counting like dharma or something.
Yeah, I don't know about dharma. That's a bit more. Yeah. That's something else.
Yeah. Okay. So if that's what we're doing, then I think there's the wanting, but I think there's the praise as well. Like so, so there's the wanting system. So like I guess you should want more things. Is what you're trying to say?
I should illuminate what I want to myself better, so that I can recognize them again and do the same thing.
Sure.
But and I suspect I do struggle with illuminating what I want. I already have a little fuzzy bit
so
there,
like this is
like blind
place
spot
that needs that energy.
Essentially, yeah. But like the question is like, why was there a blind spot there in the first place? And well, there's a blind spot there in the first place because, or at least one of the reasons is that the part of me that wanted the thing wasn't speaking up enough such that I was actually rewarding it, right? It was just kind of like, we want it, but it's not that important.
Mm-hmm.
So if I like overweight the like wanting system, then other wants that were not getting heard might get heard as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not overweight. It's
like temporarily overweight it for now, and then like
up resource.
Yeah, up resource. Yeah. Well, that's that's what I mean.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we up resource?
Well, it's kind of like already happened. Like I felt the thing will sort of like slot in and be like, oh yeah, that fits.
Okay.
I mean, I've also like on a counter note, since we're in like weird territories of like systems, right? So there's the system that rewards praise to things, right? The internal psyche system that awards praise. And I worked with someone once who, it's like they had this like thick blanket of praise, right? Massive. And they were like, I live a wonderful life, but there's something wrong and I can't find it. And I was like, oh, you need to like turn down the praise, at least for like while we're working, right? So that you can illuminate the like the territory underneath it that needs actually to be addressed, right? You got to like take away the safety blanket. So in doing that work for this other person with this other person, I feel like I also did my own work in terms of like, am I like blinding myself with too much praise, right? Like, so in terms of free energy, I don't want my free energy to go into the like praise myself more system, because I've already like had to nuance that one. Like if I do over the top, then I just blind out. Like I get this like oblivious happy land.
You're trying to balance.
So I'm already like, I've already done nuance on that one. And this is like, I need more. What I do need is an illumination into what I'm wanting system, right? So like different systems need different things. I feel like I've already done that one, and I've like worked out the appropriateness of praise with the like, you know, I'm nice to myself. I'm not cruel to myself, but the like wanting things could be more illuminated. So just to like give an example of a system that I have worked with before that I don't think needs more of this free energy.
Right. I like this. This is very like resource management.
Yeah.
You're managing your resources. And you're like, it's interesting because like you're managing your internal energy resources.
Right.
Which is like awesome to talk about. I never hear anyone talking about this in like this kind of depth.
Right. And in theory, like we're all managing all the time without noticing. Right?
Yeah, we're all doing it.
If we're not, we're caught in some shitty dynamic where we're like, this amount of energy is fixed here and this is here. But we're such a dynamic system that it's probably going out of whack all the time.
Or stuck, I think is the other one. I think a lot of people, like especially like the more successful people, tend to have a good balance, but it can be very rigid. Where it's like, okay, like this is it, and like anything that like starts to mess with it, they're like, no, that's gonna like mess me up. As you get into like routines and stuck in your ways, and that's usually good for time, or like that's often how you can be successful at like a younger age, is to pick a thing, focus on it, and just do that for a long time. But then as you get older, you start to become like the world changes around you, and you're not necessarily able to adapt as well.
Yeah, so I'm feeling pretty good about the whole rerouting some energy. Like, I don't know if we solved the ultimate bottleneck puzzle, but
we opened it up a little bit.
Yeah, and that's an important point, that problems don't always solve; they sometimes just shift a bit.
Yeah,
and I don't know how far-reaching this shift will go. Right? Like, first of all, if I'm showing up more passionately, that's good. Second of all, if I'm like, getting what I want more often, that's good. Third of all, if I'm finding more things that I want that I wasn't paying attention to, that's good. Like,
the thing I like about this is that like it's like incremental change versus necessarily like completely paradigmatic shift. The thing about this is that you've got more resources now. That resources goes towards getting more resources. So even if we're not necessarily using all that stuff as efficiently as possible, we're going to get another chance, another chance. And as we keep doing that, we create, virtuous cycles.
Well, it's also, I have a general theory that, let's say in this instance, I put more resource into like illuminating what I want, right? As an adult at the age of 31, I've put the resource there, right? Now, resource that I have allocated as an adult is sort of like more flexible than the resource I allocated as a teenager in high school when I was bullied. And I was like, I have to act this way, right? When I allocated it super strictly. And I was like, it has to stay this way forever in order for me to survive. But as an adult, even if I've allocated that wrong, I can just like recollect it and put it somewhere else quite comfortably, rather than having to like, rigid. Like, I didn't make myself rigid when I just put that resource over there. I like gently allocated that resource.
Yeah, and that energy is more nuanced and more complex and
Right.
more processed than any energy you would have had when you were younger.
Right. Because of course, when you're like a 5-year-old and you're fighting with your sibling and you go like, I hate you forever, that like like locks in some like sibling rivalry that has been there.
Oh no, the thing is it doesn't always. And for me, like a lot of like the stuff when I was younger is like, okay, like I hate you, but then like later I wouldn't have that feeling anymore. And like for me there was like this huge struggle of like being,
how did I ever possibly hate them for that moment if now I don't have it? Like what?
Yeah, but like I remembered that I hated them, but like I can't do anything about it.
Right.
Because I don't.
And so then you have to cry about it or something, or like, reallocate it
or whatever. Like yeah, like like I had these like varied emotions, like strong varied emotions that were like mutually incompatible at the same time.
Right.
Which I guess everyone kind of does in ways. But yeah, like, I think that was like for me, that was a lot of that journey is trying to level it off so that I'm like I can feel different things at different times, but like there's something consistent across all my experiences.
Right. So gentle allocation of resource as an adult. Now that I'm like particularly working with different psychotechnologies, like I'm trying to allocate in nuanced ways. I'm trying to allocate like little bits. I'm trying to allocate gently, and I can reallocate later, like if I need to, rather than the rigidity of the like major structures that I said as a child. These are like more able to move.
Right. So something that keeps showing up for me again is we talked with when we talked with Romeo, he mentioned, I think it was Romeo, he mentioned the hell realms.
Yeah.
And that the hell realms are everything is like super tight.
That was Layman. Yeah.
Oh, that was Layman.
Well, you're mixing
so, like,
in.
This feels like the opposite. It's like this loosening and
yeah,
but not like loose, but like not like, flexible, maybe flexible, but like
fluid or something.
Yeah, like manipulatable, but like not
malleable.
Kind of malleable. Yeah.
Right.
Like I'm having this vision. I'm like seeing all these tubes and they're all tied up in ways, but then they're going to be like untied in other ways. Like later we're going to be like, okay, well actually like let's retie them up this way instead.
It's interesting because Mark Lippmann uses a metaphor of like, imagine like a string or wires or tubes like infinitely on the infinite plane of consciousness on mental, and there are all these like strings from here to here and here to here, and they're all like tied up, right? And he's like, meditation is undoing all the knots in all the strings.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of his like primary metaphors for like an instance by instance approach to meditative processing of all of the knots in your psyche. Like,
yeah,
that's one of his metaphors.
Yeah. I love that stuff. Like that stuff feels so good to me. Like we have, and just to give a concrete example, we have in our house, we have all these paintings everywhere because my wife paints. And originally we were using like this tape to put up the paintings. And it's like very annoying because you put them up and then take it down. It's like a whole thing. But then we start just drilling the holes in the walls, or like the nails. And then every time I want to switch, I'm like, oh, I don't like this aesthetic, or she paints something new. And then we want to put that up. But then the whole color scheme now changes and we have to like rearrange all the paintings. And having just the nails is so easy because I can just, put them up however I want and then just change them and then until I get it like good enough. And I got a whiteboard. And so like, it's easy for me to like, today I just like, okay, like I'm just going to take off the whiteboard and take out the screw and now put in this new one. Like, it's just so, there's something about like creating your environment and like, it's interesting because like, there's this idea and you can stop me if I'm like going off topic. I don't know, but it's like, I feel like some of my free energy got unlocked as well. There's like when we were growing up, there was this very strong like need for permanence, right? So there's like this thing of like anything I do is going, has to be forever. So like dating was a big one. Like it's like like people, if two people would date but they wouldn't plan to get, but they're not planning on getting married, it was like very weird. It's like, well, what's the point, right? Like if you're just not gonna get married, what's the point? Or like, you know, half of marriages end in divorce, so like what's the point of, and then there's the other perspective of like, well, like we're happy together now, and like this is good, right? Like like there's now, and that's good, and it, not everything has to be the same forever for it to be worthwhile. And I think this, like this, I guess I feel like the thing that we're doing is really reinforcing for me this idea of I guess like change being a constant, or that like not everything, like you don't have to do everything, like living a life where things aren't permanent, and not, and like living that life where you're like living that realization of things being impermanent, and like that being really awesome. Right, so it's not that your sandcastle gets washed away and now you cry, it's that you get to build whatever sandcastle you want however you want to, and you're not getting attached to the sandcastle, you're enjoying like learning all these new ways and new techniques, and I wish I could express, but I wish I had that verbal.
It's still fun to build
I
sandcastles.
wish I could be like ta-da more. But that's part of it, right? Like this is, you know, like we do this podcast and it's supposed to be forever or something because YouTube and internet and stuff. But like realistically, I think a lot of what we do is building those skills and building that flexibility and that ability to say like, okay, we're gonna do this, and then next time it's gonna be better, next time it's gonna be better, next time it's gonna be better, and doing that forever. And then you get this like beautiful future. The future is like beautiful and forever, and the heavenly kingdom will descend on earth.